Now, Florida Governor Ron DeSantis is busy, too. Off the campaign trail, back in his home state, of course, he is there. And we're expected to hear from him in about an hour, as I mentioned earlier. He'll be talking about the preps for the storm. But he faces not only the threat of Hurricane Idalia, but also he is facing criticism and public discourse over the deadly shooting in Jacksonville that prompted a hate crime investigation. Joining me right now, Julia Manchester, national political reporter for The Hill. You pinned a new piece about what Governor DeSantis is facing, a firestorm of sorts following that shooting. You know, he came out directly condemning the violence, this shooting. We heard he himself say out of his mouth that this was a racially motivated crime, this shooter, his gun emblazoned with a swastika. What has been the response to the governor's statements?
Well, Adrienne, it's been very partisan. You have Republicans saying that Ron DeSantis did all that he could. He did his job as governor. He came right back to Florida and was at that vigil a block away from the Dollar General where that shooting took place in Jacksonville. But still, when the governor approached that vigil and got on stage, he was met with some boos and jeering. There was a Democratic councilwoman who represents the part of Jacksonville where the shooting took place, and she essentially said, "This isn't about party or politics today. I'm glad the governor's here." And he addressed the crowd. And you also have a lot of Florida Democrats saying that DeSantis essentially has blood on their hands. One state representative saying that, arguing that, this can be tied back to, his comments on anti-wokeism and, pushing back against, recreating the state's AP African-American history curriculum, and also his gun law measures in the state. So definitely a very partisan response. But this all comes as DeSantis is running for president, as he's on the national stage, and he has become a very politically charged partisan figure because of that. So the response has been very heated.
Well, the governor, you touched on this, he's been criticized for his hard stance on topics that have the left particularly upset, eliminating some Black history courses and critical race theory. In terms of that strong response, though, are people, do you think, in 2023, not just politicians and pundits, I mean everyday people, are they really tying this shooting to his policy issues?
It's a good question. Ron DeSantis, his approval ratings in Florida, we know are, very high right now. He is generally a popular governor in the state. But in terms of the shooting, we don't know, how his response has been measured yet in terms of polling. And I haven't seen much anecdotal response. But look, I think right now the state of Florida, like Ron DeSantis as governor, is juggling a lot. They are dealing with this shooting, which is very traumatic, particularly for the community of Jacksonville. They're grappling with this incoming hurricane that's going to likely wreak havoc on the state. So, I don't know if it's necessarily top of mind, but I think DeSantis is definitely a very polarizing figure for some. So you either love him or hate him in this respect.
Yeah, and there are a lot more people maybe that hate him outside of his own state because he has been very successful within Florida. There's a new Insider Advantage poll following that first GOP debate. DeSantis gaining back some of voter popularity, now at 18% support among likely Republican voters compared to 10% before the debate. Now, in light of this crisis or this natural disaster happening, a lot of times when we see a particular thing like a hurricane happen, we could see a person like him have a surge in popularity because of a strong response, because people are looking for a leader at these times of hardship. Do you think that's going to happen here?
I think it very well could happen. And last year we saw that happen with Hurricane Ian. Ron DeSantis got a lot of praise, not only from Republicans, but Democrats, including President Biden, who was working together with DeSantis on the ground in the state to respond and provide the federal response to Hurricane Ian. So, he definitely has the potential to get a lot of praise. He's obviously doing his job as governor. I'm from Florida governors in the past. And, right now we know how to Floridians know how to handle hurricanes. So this is definitely his job as governor. But look, he is going to be, looked at as the leader in this state, and Floridians are going to be looking at him for, what to do next. How do they handle this storm? And this is essentially his job. So it's not only an issue for Floridians, though. I would say if we want to look at it from the national perspective, if you're a Republican voter in Iowa or New Hampshire or South Carolina, you could be viewing this as, or getting a front row seat to DeSantis's executive leadership style in a time of crisis. So it's an opportunity for him. But I want to emphasize, Joe Biden, every level of government in responding to this hurricane are doing their job. This is definitely, that comes first. This isn't primarily about politics, but when it's in the context of a major presidential election, there's obviously that lens we have to look through it as well.
More at stake. Julia Manchester, thank you very much. Thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find News Nation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of News Nation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.